A brand guide is a rulebook that explains how an organization presents itself to the world through its logo, type, colors, images, and much more. Join me and find out how well-known brands define their identity and assure consistency of their appearance and tone of voice. This video will be the perfect place to start if you are planning to create a brand guide for one of your clients or a brand that you are developing yourself. Most of the guides I'm going to show you in this video are from the site called brandingstyleguides.com. The link is in the description below. Make sure you check it out. You can create a free account, and once you have that, you can download the PDF guides. Now, some of these guides might not be the most up-to-date or most recent version for the brand that you are looking for. Nevertheless, they can be still perfect to use as references and examples if you are planning to create a brand guide yourself. I like the fact that you can search based on the year of publication here on the top where you have the filters, based on languages, the size of the document, even countries where it was used, and even tags. Or if you know a brand that you're looking for, you can just type it here in the search area. Now first, let's take a look at Adobe's 2018 guide, which is quite an extensive one, so it's around 80 pages long. And of course, for these type of documents, it's good to have a table of contents where you can indicate the structure of the guide, but you can also incorporate hyperlinks here if it's an interactive PDF, which is quite simple to build in InDesign, for example. So that means we can also just click on any of these entries and we can jump straight to that page within the guide. And that is actually already a consideration you have to make in the beginning, whether you would like to build your guide mainly for print or for digital use. In recent years, I'm seeing more and more companies going towards having their style guides and assets all online in an interactive format, and they might not even have a PDF or a printed version available. A good example for this is Google's Visual Asset Guidelines, for which again the link is in the description below, and this is actually on Behance, so you can find it. It's in two parts and it goes through all the different details from icons, how they are generated and created, and also how they are supposed to be used. So how can you decide which format works better for you or for the brand that you're working with? In my opinion, an online interactive guideline might work better for more digital companies, while companies where there would be a lot of stationeries and physical products like packaging as well, it is better to have a printed guide, which of course can always be available as an interactive PDF at the same time. Now, coming back to Adobe's brand guide, we can see clearly that the first chapter focuses on the mission, values, and the tenets, which are the basic principles of the company. And this is a very important section. So whenever you work with a brand or a company and you are creating a guide, you really need to get to know them before you start working on the guide. So you need to know where they are at the moment, where they are heading, what is their target audience, what is their tone of voice, and in general, what's the brand's personality. Here's another example, the National Geographic Brand Guide. Again, if we take a look at the table of contents, once again, it starts with our brand, then it goes into brand behavior, and only after that it starts talking about the ingredients or elements used in the visuals for this brand. If we take a closer look at this introductory section, it's good to start with the mission, which is usually about why the company exists and what's its purpose. And this is most of the time is the present of the company. But then you can move into the vision or the future ideas or where the brand wants to move and what its ultimate goals are. And in general, in this section, it's good to have adjectives used that can define the brand. Like here we have premium, science, adventure, exploration, and destination, which perfectly describes and encapsulates the brand. Now, in some guides, you will also have the opposite of this, things that the brand is not about, which can also be useful for further clarification. Usually after the brand story is covered, we would move into the elements or ingredients, and probably the most important and most well-known part of that is the logo. Now again, it depends on the complexity of the brand. This can sometimes be a single page, but sometimes it can end up being a whole chapter. So let's take a closer look at National Geographic's logo. So first of all, we have the yellow icon on its own, that frame, which is really well recognized. And then we have the lockup with the text next to it. And notice the amount of white space or negative space used on this page. So the page is not crowded and cluttered. It really focuses on the elements and what they are used for. Also, it's a good practice to build the guide itself using the fonts that are applied to the brand and even the colors. We can already see that on this page, and it really just unifies the whole brand experience. On the second page, we have more information about the tagline, which is further, how it can be used in different formats, and also how much space is necessary between the main logo and the tagline. Then we move into a section which explains how not to use the logo. This is also very common and a great way to make sure that all the partners and everyone who's going to work with the brand will end up using it the way it was meant to be used. This is the part I normally call "don't mess with our logo." And then we have a couple of additional examples, again, variations on how not to mess up the logo. And then we reach the next section, which is also very crucial for most brands. It's color. And in case of National Geographic, it's quite simple. We have the black and the yellow. But with other brands, this can be a little bit more complex. Like with the Animal Planet brand guide from 2008, explains that there are 10 different color variations besides the black and white version of the logo. And out of these, this yellowish green tone is the hero color. So that's like the primary color usage, while the others are more supporting colors. These can also sometimes be referred to as primary and secondary colors. And in case of British Airways, for example, there's even a chart showing the percentage or priority of the colors associated with the brand. So the blue is definitely their hero color, followed by white, then red, and then finally by gray. And they can also have an inverted palette where white becomes the primary color, followed by blue, red, and then again finally by gray. Having a percentage or a comparative chart that shows the difference between the usage of colors is always useful because it really helps, again, to understand how to work with the brand as a designer. It's a similar thing with the brand guide for American Red Cross, where once again we have the different versions of the logo, and then we reach the color area where we see the primary, secondary palette, and there's also a neutral part. But more importantly, we have the color proportion here once again, showing that white is the most important color, and then with the size, it's nicely representing the proportions or the hierarchy between the colors. Now, it is important to remember that brand guides are not all about visuals. It's also about things like the tone of voice. And since we are here, I really like how the Red Cross explains that how we talk is just as important as what we talk about. So that's a great statement to start with, and then it's followed by these headlines: uplifting, inviting, empowering, personal. And by the way, this brand guide is a single poster. So all the information that's relevant are compressed into this one single piece. Now, there might be also a more extended version of the brand guide, but it's also a good thing to keep in mind that it is possible to use a single page and still have all the relevant information included. So that's another thing that you need to keep in mind, and you have to make sure that you have the same understanding with your client. So even though they are a small company, their brand guidelines might be a long document because they would like to specify a lot of things, while other companies might be huge, but they are happy with a smaller brand guide that really focuses on the important aspects of what they would like to define as standards. So what you as a designer need to pay attention to is the level of restriction. And it is a fine balance between keeping a brand flexible, allowing some creativity and freedom in how you use its assets, but being rigid enough to keep the brand recognizable and consistent. Before we continue, I just wanted to let you know about our creative membership program. For a small monthly fee, you get access to over 200 hours of Adobe certified online training courses. Master all the tools and skills needed to become a professional graphic designer or illustrator. As a pro member, you will get mentoring from me and my team, access to webinars, student forum, and creative briefs to help you build an outstanding portfolio. Pro members can also download the project files for all of our YouTube tutorials. Sign up at yesimadesigner.com/memberships and start your free trial today. And now let's head back to the tutorial. Now, another big section in most brand guides would be about imagery, and especially with very visual brands like National Geographic, this is of course crucial. So it's interesting to see what are the three main filters that they use for choosing the right images whenever they want to represent a brand. First one is that they need to always have a human element. So they want to maintain that and avoid just showing landscapes without any human representation. The next key concept is immersion. So they want you to really feel like you are present and you are in that place that they are showing. And stuff like that can really help to choose the right type of compositions for the brand. And last but not least, further, which you might recall was their tagline as well, it's about vast spaces, so a lot of negative space used besides the subject or salient details within the photographs. Similarly to images, type usually also gets its own chapter within a brand guide. In case of National Geographic, it starts with the main font and the secondary font. Most brands would usually work with a font family that can be extensive and have several different variations, which will allow flexibility in the editing. But of course, it's also a common practice, like with National Geographic, that there is a main font and a secondary font, and these two are very specifically selected to work well together as a pair. Now, for visual brands, it's also sometimes good to lay down the rules of how to combine type and imagery together. So here we can see some examples of type over light backgrounds, and we even have a separate page on how to do color correction on imagery to make sure that we have enough contrast to maintain good legibility on the text. And then sometimes we also have actual compositions included in the brand guide just to further define how certain elements can be used, like the logo or once again text and imagery together. Even if you are producing a printed brand guide, when the brand uses a lot of motion graphics, it's also important to keep that in mind and include in your guide. Once again, with National Geographic, of course, because it's a TV channel, there would be a lot of motion graphics used. And in this chapter, we can see how the logo should appear in footages. So we have a very specific placement, also very specific negative space around the logo and the titles. And every detail is clearly defined here, once again, to make sure that it is always used consistently. Now, most of the times when an agency or a designer works on the brand guide, they should also provide templates. And for motion graphics, it would most likely be an After Effects template or Premiere template. While for print, most of the time, it would be an InDesign file with master pages and everything prepared. And these templates most of the time would be for in-house use, but sometimes they can also be given out to partners. Almost all brand guides would have separate sections for the different types of collaterals, and the main categories are usually digital and print. So we already seen a couple of digital examples, and here are a few printed examples for National Geographic. We have first the stationery overview, then we have a focus on business cards, both the front and the back, and then we have letterheads, envelopes, and then we even have the email signature defined here. However, that's digital. It still works well next to the letterheads and stationeries. The appearance of the brand on social media should also be a separate chapter in most brand guides these days. And we can see that perfectly in the National Geographic brand guide. So we have Facebook, Twitter, YouTube next to each other, showing first the headers. Then we have a little bit more about the headers, detail, instances of the channel graphics on mobile, and then a couple of social post templates and banners, and even presentation slides. Now, of course, probably the most important one for the digital assets is going to be the website. So there will most likely be several pages about that and how certain landing pages should be created, and even rules about the navigation or the general layout of pages. And at this point, I wanted to mention that in the past, brand guides could work for decades. Like this brand guide for NASA is from 1976, and it was in use for a long time. However, brands nowadays change their appearance quite often, following certain trends in graphic design. But that is not an excuse of having completely new brand guides released yearly. I think longevity is an important factor of a good brand guide, which can serve the company for many years to come after it's been created. And that is all I wanted to cover in this video. I hope you found it useful. And in the future, I'm planning to do more deep dive videos on logo design. And of course, if you have any questions about the things that I covered, please leave a comment below and I will try my best to answer. Thanks a lot for watching. Like and share this video if you enjoyed it. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified whenever we release new videos. Click on the link on my right and start your membership today to get access to over 200 hours of training courses and personal mentoring by me and my team of creative professionals. Have fun learning, guys, and I will see you in the next one.